Good afternoon. How's everybody doing today? Hey, know it's been a while since you've seen me and this truck behind me, so I wanted to give you an update. Excuse me. So what we've got going on, we've made some progress. Been really busy with helping my brother up there with the 61 Cadillac, as you guys have been watching and enjoying. And in the meantime, I've been squeaking some work in on this thing. Let's do an update on it. Let's start from the front and work our way to the rear, and then I'll let you go. So moving up front here, we've got, getting framed there. The rack and pinion is in. Let's talk about the spindles, things you're gonna come up on here. So since the spindles have a tapered ball joint that runs downhill, meaning it's bigger on the top and smaller on the bottom, you're going to run into a little bit of an issue with a high angle on your outer tie rod end. It'd be running like that. That would affect all sorts of steering. I got this fix here from Tinworks, and basically what we're doing here is we are turning the outer tie rod upside down, and we're keeping it in alignment with the lower control arm. So that should help with bump steer. One of the problems that I encountered, so a 73 to 87 spindle has a bigger taper in it than a 71, 72 spindle here for the disc brakes. The 71, 72 has a bigger disc, bigger meaning wider, so I chose to use those spindles because you can have two options in 73 to 87. So what I ended up having to do is a 7-degree taper bit, chuck it up in a drill press, a heavy duty drill press, and just re-taper these holes. That'll be something that you're going to want to pay attention to if you plan on doing this with a with an early style spindle. What else did I encounter? There's a nub right there that is like a bump or a steering stop for angles, so you don't have too much steering angle or whatever you might want to say. That will touch your bag, so I had to lop that off. Let's move to the front of the engine here. So this is an LS2 style pump because I wanted to run an LS3 style intake manifold. If you want to run that manifold there, you can't run with truck accessories because you won't clear this throttle body. So you gotta come up with something that you want to run. 2010 on up Camaro puts the alternator right here, and it fits right inside that frame rail. However, if you're using this Tinworks kit for the front engine cradle, you won't be able to get your power steering lines on there. It's just too tight and there's going to be interference. So C5 Corvette stuff it is. You got the bracket that places your alternator up here. You got your power steering pump here, and then the idler is down below. So everything should clear, and everything should go together smoothly. The heads, if you remember right, and maybe I didn't show it, but this engine was sitting outside for a while, so the heads needed a valve job and just cleaned up in general. Fuel rails and injectors. Fuel rails and injectors are stock. They are LS3 style, however this is a Bosch style fuel injector, and the O-rings that come on these are incorrect, so you have to buy a GM O-ring. Otherwise they'll slop around in there like a hot dog down the hallway. Things that I'm going to come up against are this steering shaft. You can see it passes through the firewall, and I need to make it down here. So they are almost in line with one another, so it's going to be a sharp turn coming out and down, and then coming into this lower. That'll be something fun to make, because I didn't really expect that, so that's how that's going to be. We've got the F-body 98 to 2000 or 2002 oil pan on it. Plenty of clearance there. Moving on to the transmission, I chose to run a 6L90 transmission on this truck, along with the big 6-liter up front. If you also choose to do this, this is what you will encounter. That transmission is so big, and most of the mass is above the center line of the trans, that you're gonna have to cut the floor. So that is something to think about. Fortunately, I was junkyarding and found a high hump floor trans tunnel. I'm sure they sell these things now aftermarket, but that one was from a 4-speed truck, like a big old dump truck, and pulled that, and that fits perfectly with lots of clearance. I used a riv nut tool here. We have, I don't know, ½ inch of clearance there for the tail shaft. Still need a steering wheel, steering column. We won't talk about that. But one thing I will talk about is, we're going to stand back and take a look at it. We're going to talk about how nice it is to have friends with heavy equipment. So instead of gathering up 6 buddies and trying to lift this cab onto this frame, we used a excavator, a mini excavator, and slung a rope around the top, 2 of them, and just plucked it up and set her on the frame. Look at that, isn't that fancy? Okay, now onto the back. Obviously we can't run this tank because we're going fuel injection, so I have to come up with a tank for the rear. It looks like Boyd sells a nice one. If any of you guys have other options that you guys have used, throw them in the comments below, because I'm open to anything. I think I want to use like nylon factory fuel hose, the 3/8 stuff. Easily accessible, cheap by the foot, and just put a couple of Parker Hannifin fittings on the end and stuff it in the intake here. The only thing I'm not sure about is coming across up front and what the rules are for drag stripping if I ever take it down the track. Let's see, what else? Oh, so the drop on the front of this thing is absolutely nuts. Even with a standard height control arm, or a standard height spindle, ride height, which would be at half of the shock travel, and there's only like 6 inches of shock travel there. I think we're looking at, from the bottom of the frame rail to the ground, about 4 inches, 3.5, 4 inches. So with the front end being so low, we did C-notch the back of this, and I did have a video on that. But there's way more travel in the rear than there is in the front, so we're gonna have to get a little block and get that up there so it doesn't ride down the road looking like a stink bug or something. So fender's all done. This is where the battery drips acid into the corner there, so if you ever know anything about taking it, I mean, if you know anything about battery acid, it eats things up. These are temporary wheels for this year. Got the chrome or the beauty rings on it, and we're in the middle of doing the bed. So this was an 8-foot bed, and we're taking it down. So that is the updates on this truck. Couple, just a few things that you might run into if you do one of these things. Maybe help me out with some pointers on the gas tank or whatever. But until next time, I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you again.